This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I am your host, Steve Anderson, and today our guest is Singh, who is a visionary leader who spent over 20 years revolutionizing businesses and building high-performance teams. As a former C-suite executive, he's driven double-digit growth, streamlined operations, and transformed organizations worldwide. But his real power comes from something unexpected: mindfulness. Raised in an affluent family in India, Singh mastered classical music by age 13, but was restless. At age 14, he was sent to train under a lama, where he discovered the profound impact of mindfulness. Fast forward to 2020, his passion for mindful leadership was ignited during a high-pressure ransomware crisis early in his career. Faced with the overwhelming stress of guiding his team through uncharted territory, he turned to mindfulness to anchor himself. That pivotal experience revealed the transformative power of presence, empathy, and emotional intelligence in leadership, and it inspired his life's mission to share these tools with others. Today, Singh is an advocate for redefining leadership in a fast-paced world. His signature frameworks, the Ascendancy Action TM System and Mindful Leadership Mastery Compass, equip leaders to transcend stress, foster resilience, and cultivate authenticity. Whether inspiring audiences through keynote speeches, mentoring teams, or crafting leadership roadmaps, Singh's vision is clear: to empower leaders to transform challenges into opportunities and lead with clarity, compassion, and purpose. So, Singh, welcome to the program today. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's just start with a little context here to get everybody up to speed. And I know we heard some of it in the bio, but just tell us a little bit. Obviously, you grew up in India. So tell us a little bit about that and then how you got to where you are now.
Um, okay. So I'm dating myself. I was born during the time when the acronyms were not used for prescribing medicine, and kids were kept in two categories. Either you're a disciplined kid or you're not disciplined kid. So I was right around 3.5, 4 years old, and I was very over anxious, over hyper, whatever you want to call it. And my parents, they had a musical background. My mom actually learned sitar from Pandit Ravi Shankar, who is one of the greatest sitarists in the world. So they got me into Indian percussion. That if I, do enough exercise with playing instruments and stuff like that, it might, get me calmed down and stuff like that. I got into music so much that Indian classical percussion, I finished postmasters when I was 13 years old.
Wow.
So I used to play in concerts all day long. I mean, it was a big deal back in the day. But I had grown into a kid that if I was not playing and if I was not in music, I would pick fight. I mean, if you looked in my eyes, I would pick fight. If you didn't look in my eyes, I would pick fight. I was that kind of kid.
Okay.
Um, right? And very aggressive, very, very aggressive all the time. And then I very categorically remember that summer, I was 14 years old, and I was sent to Tibet to train with a Lama. The family had connections, they had relationships. So somebody said that, hey, this is the only thing that we can see if somebody can train him and teach him something that is a little different. I stayed there for 2.5 months. And when I came back, I was a whole different personality. I was a whole different person. It changed. It changed not only me. So it went from a kid who used to pick fight to a kid who would go in a fight and stop the fight.
Wow.
It was a 180 change in my profession, in my life. And as a result of that, I very quickly not only did my education, I mean, I did almost like 8, 9, 7 different degrees. When fast forward, I got into corporate life. I was one of the youngest partner with LaSalle Capital before it got sold to Bank of America. Then
Uh-huh.
I joined Aflac. I stayed with them for 7 years and 8 years, and I was again second youngest officer on the executive team. So that kept going on. And when the ransomware attack happened in 2020 during COVID, when I took that deep breath and I just stopped, I just paused, and I stepped back and said, okay, how can I do this differently? We did a few things right there and then, and I'll explain that. I'll give you context of that too. That
Okay.
came very naturally to me, and within minutes, my team, my direct five people, direct report, I was CTO at that time, so my 4 or 5 direct report, we had very clear plan of what we are going to do hour by hour, minute by minute, who is going to engage with whom and who is not going to engage with whom. And it did not come to me as the word mindful leadership till after that event. So after that event, as you know, I mean, it's COVID, it's a big ransomware attack. We came out of ransomware within 30 hours without paying ransom. It's a big deal. So I was invited in multiple webinars and stuff like that. And fourth or fifth webinar, I started asking why this is something so not natural to me, is so difficult for people to think. How did you compose yourself? And I started looking back. Traveling was not there during COVID, so I had enough time. I started looking back into my life, and I'll start giving out these things to your listeners, tools that I say. So one practice that I've always had, and no matter which team I had in US, Japan, India, I had teams everywhere. Whenever we get in a meeting, I always ask them 3 questions in 30 seconds. First question is individually and collectively, whether it is one-on-one or a team meeting. Individually and collectively, what do we want out of this meeting,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you bring people to focus on what they need right now, not live in past or future presumptions that's going in the brain, right? So you're driving people back to the prefrontal cortex so they become logical. Second question, if you were not here, what else you would be doing that would be more beneficial
Mm-hmm.
for individual and group,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is, I have trained this a lot, and people say that their meetings have cut down by 60, 70% just because of that question. They really don't need to be there. Just because you are my direct report does not mean you need to be in every meeting that I am, right? What's the point of expanding the company if everybody is in all the meeting all the time? The third one, even important question, if for whatever reason you were not here, who would be the next person who could do this job better than you? So now we're talking about prioritization,
Mm-hmm.
objectively looking at what we want, and if the right resources are involved in less than 30 seconds. So when ransomware happened, I was in the driveway, literally parking in, and my database administrator pinged me, called me, and he said, "Hey, I'm sorry. Did you see my text?" And I opened the text. It said, "Hey, we are down. We are shut down." So I did not understand what he meant. We are shut down. And I walk in, the screens are all gone, and I just see that, text this number if you want to open up your account, whatever.
Oh
And
gosh.
I pulled all 4 of them in my office. 2 were on the call, so 6 of them. We had office in multiple places. I started just like that. What do we want out of this? Again, I get chills every time I have to explain that story, right? I mean, it's so real.
Yeah.
I think the biggest professional existential threat that you can get was for me that day. And we within I would say 5 minutes, all 6 of us, we knew that okay, I'm going to take care of managing the executives so they don't jump on everyone and start asking questions and disturb them. These are the 2 guys who are going to go and start working with employees. These are the 2 guys who are going to work with the servers and then figure out what's going on. And then one guy who was one of my resource managers, he and I started working with FBI and a couple of other organizations to figure out what the hell is going on. The point of this story is panic is natural because we all live in autopilot most of the time. And why we live in autopilot is brain is the laziest part of our body. If it resembles something connected to something else, it will try to do that same thing. So if you think about, if you drive every day, some days you will feel like, oh, how did I get here? Right? You start from point A, you got to point B. How did I get here? Right? So
Right.
that's the autopilot that people are always on. So being able to break that, and that's what become a mission after coming out of that. The second big thing that happened was 2021. We were challenged by our investment company that we want to double, triple the company and sell. So think about it. We just came out of ransomware. And then from January 2021 to January 2023, we acquired 30 organizations, integrated them all into one single process, one single organization, one single platform, and sold 20x.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So in your story about the ransomware, then, so you said what you did right and how you got everybody to do it, and this thing went away. I think you mentioned in 30 hours, right?
30
So
hours, yeah.
so what? For contrast here, what would have been the wrong thing to do? So when you look back on it, right, you said you did the right thing. What would have been the wrong thing to do, which maybe others would have done?
So the way I look at it is leadership today is looked as two different extremes. On one stream, it's looked at as run, 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 run. I think it's not the right word to say, but dog eat dog kind of attitude, right? If you're not doing the work, you're not performing, you're not producing, you're not good. On the other extreme, it is, oh, we need to take care of emotions of everyone. We need to get everybody comfortable. We need to do this. In my mind, leadership is somewhere in between,
Hmm.
right? Leadership is somewhere where you understand the true essence of your organization and your accountability towards the organization to grow the organization, right? That's your fiduciary responsibility there. But as a human, you also have the responsibility to take everybody along with you and not burn them. So I could have been very hyper that day and make my team walk on eggshells,
Yeah.
right? I could be one of those guys that would have deflected everything that, hey, this is not my problem. Let's talk to my vendor. Or, hey, this is not my problem. I don't know, somebody else has to take over it. Or force the board to pay the money, the ransom, because I don't want to do the hard work,
Yeah.
right?
Interesting.
So it is not just about the company and the resources that you have. I said your partners, right? I picked up the call. I asked our partner where our data was there, our data center, and said, hey, I understand you guys have blocked us because there is a ransomware attack, but I want X, Y, and Z. We came up with a plan. I said, I want you to go back and look at 2 days back, whatever our backup was there. I want you to spin up a whole new environment separately and see if there is anything. I want that tested out and figured out if there's any bug in that,
Hmm.
right? So being able to think meticulously and having that presence of mind, right? What is one small activity I can do right now with all the constraints that I have that will make the most difference if I don't do anything.
Yeah.
So inaction never gives you result. You have to act. But then what is that smallest one thing you can do that is going to create that tangible result?
So it's so interesting to think, okay, so you're this 14-year-old kid and you're kind of wild and you said you were aggressive and all this, and then you go meet with somebody for 2.5 months and you came out totally different. So tell us how did that llama connect with you and you as a probably a precocious kid, probably, I mean, a lot of kids would have said, well, this is crazy. I'm not going to do this. It obviously worked. So tell us a little bit about that journey.
So first and foremost, I'm blessed that I was in that space. I was that kid who was made to do that, or else I have no idea what I would have been today. And the way it was it was a big monastery in Tibet, and if you think about Tibet, it's all Himalayan, forest and ice and snow everywhere, all around you. The very first, so we went to Nepal, Kathmandu, and then from there we traveled for another day, and then finally the lamas took me with them. And the only thing I had was a small sack bag with a few clothes, nothing else. Um, Once we got up at the monarch, I was put in a temple in a room, like there are very simplistic rooms for folks to stay there. And for first 2 days, nobody spoke with me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You felt like you were in prison or something, huh?
Uh, but the thing, see, that is what I see that changed me. That I could have done anything. There was nobody to stop me. There was no locks, no doors, no garage, nothing, no boundaries. I could have wandered in the forest. I could have wandered in the hills, whatever. But I was just told, you stay here. When time is right, somebody will engage with you.
Hmm.
Right? So first day I did try to go out, but then it was so cold, my skin, my bones could not take it, so I had to come back.
Okay.
Right? And then I slept good uh, here and there. I woke up again at night, midnight. I woke up. There was a glass of milk, the goat milk that they have there, and a tumbler of warm water for me. Nothing else. I don't even know who came and kept it. And next day morning, like I said, I woke up almost like 3 or 4 in the morning, and I sat there. And when I opened the door, I could see the mountain, and you see that in my background. That's why I have that.
Yeah.
Um, and I could see the mountain. I could feel that cold wind coming. And when the sun started coming on that, and the reflection of that, I haven't spoke. Somebody who used to fight every day, at least twice or thrice a day, didn't have anyone to speak for 48 hours, right? And when I saw that sunlight on that snow, I cried. I cried for straight 3, 4 hours. I don't know how I started crying. I don't remember that, but it was just flow of emotions, and it just came on and came on and came on, and I just fell down and I slept on the floor. And all I remember is about midday, this lama, he came and he brought his blankets and everything, and he said, "I think, son, it's time that you have to move forward."
Hmm. Wow. Wow. And then it's a crazy story, interesting story, but so my next question would be, so having learned that and gone through that process, so I would assume you feel that that has really set the stage for how you lead now.
Yes, it does. And again, um, very simplistically, when we talk about mindfulness, and I've said in many podcasts, I say this in every podcast that I do. Mindfulness does not mean that you need to go to Himalayas for a weekend, or you have to go to a retreat somewhere, or you need to twist your body in 200 different positions. No, mindfulness just means that you take a deep breath and you become observer of what is already in your mind. And that's what I was taught there. Mindfulness is all about, your brain is the most lazy but the most powerful organ, if you think about it. Depending on which school you come from, you can say we have five senses, or we can say we have 12 senses, right? Depending on how you look at it. I go with basic five senses that everybody can relate to. Brain is always capturing information from all those five senses. So brain is already full. What I was taught there is to be able to tap into the intelligence that the brain is already generating for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Can can you listen to your brain? It is already full. You just become observer. Take a deep breath and become observer of what you are seeing, rather than being that emotional wreck that cannot manage what the brain can do for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Great advice. So you talk about, in some research I did for this interview, you talk about leading with clarity, compassion, and purpose.
Mhm.
Uh, and so the exercise you just described is kind of getting you to those three key pieces, I would think.
Right. I've done a very extensive. So if you think about it, I've been practicing all this for 4 decades, and it's not like I got somebody from a yoga center or somewhere, right? I mean, there's the most basic fundamental mindful teaching that even Buddha used to teach, right? That's where I got groomed. The way I present that today is, think about four simple steps. The first step is presence power. Can you put yourself currently present in the moment? Which means, can you just get your frontal cortex activated or engaged with the frontal cortex? How do you know? I work with a lot of high school students, believe it or not. I've been doing it at least for the last 2 years now. And when I get in with the room with them, I show them how to get out of the digital toxicity. And I call it digital intoxication exercise, right?
Okay.
Um, I tell them next time you pick up a phone to scroll, I want you to ask two simple questions. In this minute, would I get somebody something out of this scrolling that is going to add value to what I want to do in my life? Now, the reason I want to ask that question is a lot of people learn today from digital devices. So I'm not saying get out of digital devices. If you have a purpose in that moment, but if you don't have a purpose in that moment with whatever that activity is, my second question is, what is the best of what you have to give others that you can do this moment? Or what is the best that you have in you that you can cultivate more that you can give to others?
Hmm.
It can be knowledge, it can be, anything. So if it is not, you're not present in the moment to see what is happening, then you definitely don't have clarity of your emotions, because your emotions are running you, your logic brain is not running you. And when emotion is running you and you don't have clarity, then how do you think you will get cognitive power?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And if you don't have cognitive power, how do you know that you will take the right action?
Yeah. Makes sense. So I know that part of what you do now too is a lot of keynote speaking. So how does um, tell me about that? What that does for you, and also what message are you trying to get out to these large groups of people?
So there are two fundamental message across all my speech, all my training, and everything. One is when I talk about from a business standpoint to bring human back in the conversation, right? To have compassion, to have empathy, to have mindful presence of any decision that anyone is taking, there's human on the other side. So everything cannot be just numbers, everything cannot be just data, everything cannot be just results. It has to tie back to who is that human on the other side and how this decision is going to impact them. That's one. On the second side, individual side, right? How do you, no matter who you are, no matter what profession you are in, no matter what level in the organization you are in, whether you are solopreneur or whatever, simple question: what is your purpose and what is your fulfillment? Right? So purpose, I said, what is the best of what you have to give others to help them? And you get fulfillment in three G's: grace, gratitude, and growth. If you literally pour out what you have, people will appreciate you. That's gratitude. You see others growing. That's grace. And growth, your own financial growth. I'm not saying that you keep pouring. If you keep pouring out from a cup and your cup is not getting filled, there's only so much you can pour out, right? And I tell this to all the coaches and everyone, like, hey, you don't have to pour to serve. Because if any of those G's is not in our life, that's what is burning us. The burnout is not because we don't want to do something right. The burnout is because we have not realized what our true purpose is
Hmm.
to be able to get there.
Yeah.
And it all starts with a deep breath, a sincere deep breath. Can you feel yourself right now? Can you feel tingling in your senses when you take a deep breath? And I have given multiple examples. Two deep breath can change outcome of a major surgery, right? Two deep breaths can change outcome of a major decision.
So you're just getting like you said earlier, the brain to calm down, the brain to, figure out what you're trying to think, not let emotion run wild, and just kind of get to a state where you can make a good informed decision and not just a reactive one.
And the main thing in that, Steve, is that start with a moment. Don't try to think that you're going to start here and do the whole day. No, it is, you have two things that humanity has forgotten. And I'm trying to train as many people as I can. One is appreciating the only thing that biologically certifies we are alive, except for being brain dead,
Yeah.
and that is breathing,
Yeah.
right? So start coming back to the most fundamental thing, that is the delineation between your death and your awareness. And if you have awareness because you're breathing, why don't you feel it? Why didn't you tap into it? And don't try to sit down for the whole weekend and try to do it. Start with a moment in time. Start experiencing it. That's one. The second thing I have started teaching people is how to reflect back. And why that reflection is so important. Like I said, our brain is running 24/7. There's no stop of that. Whether you are sleeping or whatever you're doing, your brain is running. It is a lazy organ, so it tries to run on autopilot, which means you're not present. And when you think about reflection, the last sip of coffee that you had, the last bite of food that you had, what are the things you truly remember? What are the sensations you truly remember about that last bite? What was the texture? What was the warmth of it? What was the smell of it? Because your brain was already collecting all those senses. But because we are not present, we don't remember those things.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if you expand that, what that means is scientifically, I mean, neuroscience is now showing us 85% plus of what we think is our memory is not true memory, because we do not recollect everything in there. So when you start reflecting, and one of the immediate thing, anybody joins my program and works with me, that's the first thing I teach them is how to start doing micro journaling. And I'll tell your listeners here, it's very, very simple. Just randomly 6 times in a day, whatever the first 4 or 5 words in an emotion comes to you. I'm hungry, as simple as that. I'm hungry, I'm driving, whatever. Randomly start writing on a piece of paper. Do it for 5 days. That's about 30 data points. On the sixth day, when you sit down, take 25, 30 minutes, sit down, go through each of the things that you've written, and try to recollect. You will not recollect everything that day
Hmm.
because your brain is not using that muscle memory. But when you sit down for 20, 30 minutes and do that exercise, now your brain says, oh, he wants me to be present in all these different situations.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. So you're an author as well. For those on the video, I'm just holding up. I got your two books here. The first one is called "The Circle Up," and that's more of a almost like a framework where you kind of go through different forms and different questions, just like what you said, and doing things to try and figure out how to get to the next step. And then the second one, um, Ascendancy Awakened, is more of a book on leadership, and you have great stories in there, and you have real life stories. So yeah, so the books are great, and they're well done. So you like being an author? Do you like that part of it?
I love that part of it. Again, being in IT world and what's going on, what I've done is, since I published the book, so Circle Up, like you said, is a framework of 7 relationship any human should have, both personally and professionally. And I very clearly articulated what are the psychological benefits of having and not having those relationship in your life. For people that I work with, I have created a custom AI companion that is
Mhm.
very conversational. You start working with it, and it starts helping you thinking about those questions. Because I did a few workshops on that, and people were like, in the workshop, they're thinking, but when I'm done and move away from workshop, I wanted to give them something that they can still keep with them. So even if I'm not there, they can continue the internal personal journey. And I would say since I launched that 2 months back, the AI piece of it, it's been phenomenal for 50, 60 people that I work with daily. That they don't have as many questions to help them, but now they're getting really deep into it because the AI has been trained with 40 years of my mindful experience. So when you say anything randomly, it starts conversation of, okay, you said you feel hurt, let's explain more. That's another big problem that I'm trying to help people with is emotional vocabulary. If you ask somebody how they're feeling, they will use 5 or 7 words, right? And when somebody says whatever that one word is, I try to expand that. So I've trained the AI to help them do that. How
Mhm.
do you feel about this person? Oh, I feel very happy with him. What do you mean happy with him?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really interesting in the book too. You go into, something I haven't seen before, which is very great ideas and very structured ways to build your networks, to build your relationships
Mhm.
with people, and to just develop these things over time. Which everyone could make the argument that yes, that's important to do that, but I'm not sure I've seen an actual, you know, I wouldn't call it a manual, but an actual framework maybe is a better word of going through, and this is how you do it, and this is how you do it over time. And your point there, I think, is that we need these deep relationships, and we need to be have belonging, and we need to build these people networks to accomplish what we want to in life.
See, that's the most fundamental thing of being a human, right? I mean, we are social animals and we have been chipping off the social part of our life. And that's where this book, if you think about it, yes, it is a framework. It tells you 7 relationship. But if you start looking at the questions, it starts also saying, if you have identified somebody as your clarity partner, or if you have identified somebody as your mentor, how do you reach out to that person and have that relationship formally defined,
Mhm.
right? That's one big thing. The second big thing that I would say everyone is, and it's true for me, today I am in at least 7 or 8 different groups. Does it take my time? Yes, it takes my time. And I'm talking about 6, 7 groups that I don't host, I participate,
Mhm.
right? Why? The moment we think we don't need somebody else, that's the day we start falling.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting. You also state in the book too, like a couple things that I pulled out was like, how do you said, how do you turn stress into a leadership superpower? Because we all hear about stress and oh, you got to decrease your stress and here's some exercises to do that, but you're actually saying you can use stress as a leadership superpower. So explain that.
So if you think about stress, again, it's a word that is commonly used for I would say a cabinet of things, right? Uh, Typically, if you look at stress, what are the 5 basic things people are saying that they are stressed? Things are not in their control. Things are not happening as they expect. Somebody is not listening to them, or something is not happening as they expected. They are not in control of a situation that they want to turn around. And the biggest thing is that people don't accept is they believe in what they want to do, but the fear of uncertainty pulls them back from doing something, right? It is important to understand why this thing is happening with us. And here is a simple reason. Even before something has happened, even before we have, let's say this podcast, even before this podcast happens, I make a presumption that this podcast is going to be listened by 100 people. I'll get 2000 reviews. I will have XYZ. Not only I presume that, I start putting my emotions on each of those different possible outcomes. Now, when I get into that experience, when I get in the podcast, I'm not focused because I'm trying to manage what I expected hypothetically, the outcome. So I'm trying to manage this conversation to get to that outcome, right? And if any of those outcome is less than what emotionally I wanted, I'm not going to be stressed.
Mm.
Point being, life is nothing but an infinite sequence of experiments. You do an activity, you get a result. You like the result, you try to do more of it. You don't like the result, you want to change it. It's as simple as that, right? The biggest thing is being present and experiencing what is there. So people are not living the experience, they're just living the thought and the emotions associated with the thoughts.
Mm. Yeah, that's
Now,
really.
is it wrong to expect something? No, not at all. Expectation is the first thing that gives you that superpower to get there. Don't get emotionally attached.
You look at, how do you look at chaos as an opportunity? Again, most people look at chaos as like, this is great, this isn't good, but you look at it as an opportunity. So explain that.
So I'll give you an example of that. And again, when I said when the ransomware attack happened, I went back and looked in my life, and it was not the only event. Let me take you back a little bit in my past. So I came to US in 2002 in Connecticut, finished my MBA, and like I said, I already had multiple degrees in India. And very quickly, I became partner with LaSalle Capital. And the way that organization used to work was three partners were clubbed together and were given responsibility of 5 or 6 deals, and we had to manage those deals all the way to reselling the company, right? Because it's an investing thing, right? So the three of us, we had very good relationship, and we used to play different roles in different organization depending on what it was. So there was a manufacturing unit that we LaSalle has acquired and in Southern Illinois, um, and I was supposed to be the chief operating officer, kind of managing that whole thing in person and trying to build everything because it was all engineering devices and stuff like that. And I am again dating myself. So 2002, 2003, this episode is from 2004. So I am what? Not even 25, maybe 28. It's 25, 28, somewhere around that, right?
Oh, mm.
And I go there. We did the deal. And I come in on Tuesday. Everything is working fine. Friday is the payroll day. It's biweekly payroll. And just to give you a description, I was the only colored person in the company and in the town,
Okay. Yeah.
right? It's a pure blue collar. It's coal mine everywhere and all those things, right? And we had 300 employees. It was a big, big, big unit, big manufacturing unit at that time. And uh, Friday, payroll day, and everything's going fine. I got very good relationship with the general manager there. We started working together. He liked my style, and we all collaborated. And suddenly, around 12:45, general manager comes and says, "Hey, do you want to go somewhere to eat?" I said, "No, I'm fine. I mean, it's only 12:30. I mean, we usually go and have lunch around 1:30, so I will grab that." And he said, "Okay." He went back, and then he came back again in 5 minutes. And he said, "Hey, do you know if there's a problem going on?" I said, "What is it, Greg? I mean, just tell me what it is."
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey, today is payroll day, and there's about 50, 60 people, and it's increasing by minute outside the fence that their payroll is not processing at the bank."
Oh no. Yeah.
So anyway, I immediately, and again, cell phone at that time had very patchy access. So I just landline, I sitting in the office, I called the bank, called my office back in Chicago, called the bank there locally, and we kind of figured, we understood what was. What happened was some clerical error and one digit different in bank account number, and the bank refused to pay. But because of it was a big deal with the bank, local bank there that we did with them. So within I would say 45, 50 minutes, the VP said, "Yeah, no problem. Don't worry about saying. I mean, I got it. This happens. This does not happen. It's our bad. I'll take responsibility. Give me an hour, and I'll figure out to pay these things." Now, by that time, I have got not only the people who are gathering, even the people who are on the floor, they stopped working and went out. And in a small, literally village, I mean, small town, that small town, by the time I finished all my call, it was almost 45 minutes. People start thinking that, hey, these guys are not coming out because they're trying to hide or whatever. So even sheriff and his team came out
Oh
that this is
God.
not good.
Yeah, not good. Yeah.
right? So Sharif comes out, and I come out. He's the first person I meet, and he introduced me. And again, I mean, after that, I became such a good friend that I was even in the his ancillary police team after that. But he comes out, and I start talking to him, and I said, "Hey, I am new here. I have no relation with anyone. It's just the fourth, literally fourth day. Can you do me a favor? And this might be pulling a rabbit from your hat, but can you call folks in the town who can provide food here right now? I don't care what the price. I don't care which restaurant. I can just bring something here." So he said, "Yeah, okay, let me make a call." So he made a few phone calls, and within half an hour, there were like 15 different trucks from different shops that came out with whatever they had that day. And I said everyone that, and I joke, and that is one thing I try to get out of chaos is try to get the wittiness out of it, right? And I said, "Hey, I tried to get all of you together, but you guys refused to come, so I thought I'll stop your paycheck so you guys can go and meet me."
Okay, that was pretty clever.
Yeah. So by the time they finished their lunch, the bank said, "Okay, it is already done." And because 300 people could not go in that small town in one small bank, so Sharif said, "Okay, I'll take care of it. I'll organize people coming in." So by about 5:30, everybody had their paycheck and everything. But it's a that's and you just have to be present and not panic,
Yeah.
right? We panic because we let our amygdala, our fight and flight of our brain run it. If you think about it, we are in Florida here, so hurricane comes in. What's the first thing we do? Conserve resources, conserve food, conserve water, conserve electricity, so that when something happens, we are there. When we are allowing our brain to be managed by amygdala, fight and flight 24/7, what is it doing? Brain is saying, "Oh my God, this is a crisis mode. I need to conserve energy." So 80% of your organ, and this is science, 80% of your organs don't get the nutrients it needs, including blood flow and oxygen, because your brain is preserving it for fight and flight.
Yeah.
So you are just increasing the momentum at which your brain is trying to panic. Versus if you just take a deep breath and say, "I know this,"
Hmm.
and start labeling those experiences. That's what I said. Mindfulness is all about becoming observer at any point in time and say, "Okay, I know this feeling, I know this smell, I know this sound." And the moment you say that, brain stops taking that as your fight and flight reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked a lot about it on this show. I have a healthcare background and totally believe in the breathing techniques and the power of breathing. And as you said, a lot of people believe, which I do too, that our bodies have changed to breathe in a way that always stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or
Mhm.
flight, as you described. But if you can redirect that breathing through nasal breathing and through controlled breathing and whatever, you can stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which gets you into that place where you have a chance to, be more mindful of the situation and come up with better results.
And I'll give you a very, very simple trick. People who have never tried this, right? And I don't ask you to close your eyes and do box breathing or anything like that. Very simplistically, let's say you are working in gym, right? Let's say you are on a treadmill. You're playing a music on a treadmill. If you start breathing at the beats of that music, that is the first stage of controlling your breath.
Hmm.
You don't have to do anything difficult like, "Oh, I have to sit and count." Okay, if you don't want to do that, that's the best thing to do, by the way. Box breathing and those kind of things are the best things to do. But if you cannot do that and you want to cultivate this muscle memory for yourself, right? Muscle power to control your breath, whatever music you like, you get involved and do that. That's what breathworks is, right? Breathworks has 200 different ways of doing it. It's not that you have to do only one single way. And the reason I say music is because that is the best stimulant for brain ever known. Sound is the best stimulant for brain ever known.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Another thing that you say that I thought was real interesting. Well, I think it's obvious, but you bring it to light here, which is that in this world right now, and particularly maybe this country, that we're just in a loneliness crisis. And so again, it's building those networks and building those relationships and whatever. But you wouldn't think just on the surface that you have to work at not being lonely, but in essence, you're saying you do. You have to go through steps and processes and whatever to make sure you don't end up in a loneliness situation.
That's a big crisis right now, and I compartmentalize that in a few different ways. Right now, I'm launching a new program for first-time empty nesters for that same thing. So when we talk about loneliness, loneliness is not just that you don't have somebody else to share things with you, right? Loneliness is, can you share your emptiness, your hollowness, your dark side with someone?
Hmm.
What I mean by that, if you think about, I gave example of empty nesters, why that program was important for me. Um, because I saw my wife going through that same thing, and a couple of my very close friends. Parents typically, one of the parent or maybe both of them, depending on the family and what you have going on, when the kids are in middle school and high school, almost I would say on an average, this is true for 75-80% of the families. Parents' calendar gets dictated by activities where kids needs to be taken, whether it is sports, gym, whatever it is, right? It can be 200 different things. And parents are invested in their kids for the right reasons. So they want to do the best. They want to be there. They want to participate. They want to, and they should. They should. I would want everyone to participate every day that you can with your kid. The day kid passes high school, goes to a college, there are three dynamics that's happening with every family. One, kid for the right reason. It's a new bird just left the cocoon. They want to figure out their own feathers and weathers and everything else, right? So they
Yep.
get involved in things that they cannot give the same time to their parents the way used to be around them. Second, the parents whose calendars used to be overbooked now suddenly have all this empty time with nothing to do,
Hmm.
right? And all that is happening at that time. And the third complexity there is, if you truly take the age, men and women both, we are going through a second round of our hormone changes,
Yep.
right? So all those things combined, it has become such a critical problem, crisis, I would say. I was talking to somebody at Mayo a couple of weeks back here, and I asked him to research for me, and he said, yeah, it is true. The divorce rate in empty nesters has increased by 80% in last 6 years. Think about that,
Wow.
right? So the program that I have just released is again from a purpose standpoint to help those individuals, both individually and as a couple, to find new purpose in their life,
Yeah.
redefine themselves. I mean, you did the best thing you could, is to give a great human to the society.
Yeah.
So you cannot say that you don't have something good to give.
Yeah, and it just goes back to that point you made earlier, which is so true that we all need purpose, and we
Mhm.
need to define that purpose. And so all of a sudden, if you're in a situation where you don't really know what you're doing or why you're doing it, and there's no purpose, identified, that's where we get lost.
And one of the things that we have now is a 20-minute, 25-minute assessment for anyone. They can go on my site. I'll give it free for anybody who calls from your listeners. They can
Yep.
just DM me or ping me. I'll give them a free assessment. Um, 25 minutes, it tells you your purpose in life. It has been scientifically designed. It took us almost 10,000 plus hours of creating the algorithm. What we do is, once you go through the assessment, it crafts you as four different archetypes: your natural advantage, something that you did even as a kid; your pull passion, things that you gravitate towards even at your own expense; then your acquired skills, things that you have learned in your life; and then your origin strength, which is what is the default mechanism you have built to respond to negative or bad situations. And once it has identified that, it tells you what frustrates you and what fulfills you. What are the beliefs related to that? And what we have found, Steve, is if one of your core belief is not being met, or you're not able to fulfill one of your core beliefs, that's where frustration, that's where anger, that's where burnout and all those things come out.
Yeah.
And that's why we spent a lot of time to build this test as assessment out there and get people going pretty quickly now.
Why don't you go ahead and give out your website so if people want to follow up on that, they can.
Definitely, it's singleadership.com.
Okay. And spell sing is Sin.
GH.
Yeah. Okay.
Sing,
Another thing.
sing a song with an edge.
Okay, there you go. Another thing I pulled out of the book that I thought was really well put, so I just want to read it to make sure I get it perfect here, is you said that leadership is not about having all the answers or maintaining a facade of perfection. It is about embracing vulnerability, fostering resilience, and leading with authenticity and empathy. Well said.
Take take the ransomware attack. That's exactly what happened, right? I mean, I didn't have all the answers, so I called my 6-day reports and I said, okay, what can be done? And who are the vendors that we can connect with right now? I'm not going to I don't have answers, and I don't know how bad this is. So unless we understand how bad it is, who are the right people? Let's call FBI, let's call this, let's call that, let's get everybody that we can reach out to get an answer, because we want to protect our customers,
Mhm.
we want to protect our company, we want to protect all these things, but we are not the only human or things around it. There are too many people around it. Let's bring everybody and make it work. But
You know, it's,
it needs vulnerability to understand that is one thing. I was coaching someone. Isolation, we talked about isolation and getting right, that's even happening in corporate setting or business setting, where leaders, as they grow, they start having those kind of situations to say, oh, I cannot share anything with anyone, I cannot be vulnerable, because then I'm not seen as leader. All they're doing is they're creating their own wall, in caving themselves in into wall that cannot be broken.
Yeah, it's such a
Sorry.
good point. And you're not the only one that says vulnerability is so important. I mean, Brene Brown kind of made her name on that and others, but it's still, in my experience too with leaders and even looking within, it's hard to go there sometimes. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't let them know this, or I don't want them to know this or whatever, which, you talk about that vulnerability actually builds trust and deepens connections and brings people to psychological safety, which is what everybody wants. Yet we tend to resist it. We tend to be afraid of it.
It is, and again, like I said, authenticity. When you talk about authenticity, I work with a lot of folks, right? Both workshops, in individual coaching, and everything else. Um, I typically start my conversation with something that might be a little too thought provoking for people, right? I talk about, this morning, did you wake up with clarity or chaos?
Mhm.
Did you know everything that you need to know when you woke up? Maybe you had thoughts, but did you know everything that's happening in this universe when you woke up?
Mhm.
So the answer is no, I did not wake up with clarity. I had clarity in my thoughts, but not around in the universe. The universe still has things going on that is beyond me and I cannot control it. Okay. Then why are you being a control freak?
Yeah, that's a good question. Good question. Well, I think too that, and the other thing that I think is important to say is that, everyone's looking for the silver bullet, like, oh, if I just do this, then everything will be great. And you say in the book too, I loved it when you talk about a catalytic coaching and the flywheel of strategy. So meaning that, it's not going to happen overnight. You have to work at, you have to practice it, and it's a journey, and you get better at it over time. You can't expect instant results.
Right. I mean, I mentioned this. What is one small action you can take in this moment? Because not taking any action is not an option for us. We have to take an action.
Yeah.
Uh, and again, it's funny. Sometimes people say, "Oh, I'm not a leader," and I say, "Oh, okay. If you are not a leader, then who's leading you?"
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you also talk about, physical wellness is a part of this too, because emotionally and intellectually, you can do all the right things, but if you're not taking care of your body and your other systems, they need to work together. Everything needs to be part of the system.
You can put it in two ways. One way you think about it is everything in this universe is vibration,
Hmm.
right? Everything is vibrating. So being able to understand your own vibration and being able to understand the space in which you are, right? And how does that connect to rest of the universe that you put together? So that's a little more, you can say it's more philosophical and does not work. But other way of looking at it is the first experience of a difficult situation is always physical. You are not able to get to a place physically. You're not able to do something physically. You're not able to whatever. I mean, the first experience internally that human gets of their limitations is the physical limitation. And that is so crucial because 80% of our life, if you're not conscious, if you're not mindful, you're wasting, ignoring that basic, like I said, I mean, breathing. We have just forgotten about breathing. It's an auto thing that happens with us. Same thing in our body, right? We assume that okay, we have gathered for what, right?
Hmm.
The four limbs that we have, the head that we have, the what exactly each of these different body parts are there for,
Yeah.
and why you are not respecting what you already have. I mean, again, it is about I told a preconceived notion that's emotions, but then again, entitlement. Oh, I am alive. My body should be doing all this. No, you're not entitled to it unless you take care of it.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of summarize all the things we've been talking about here, you also state that great leaders are those that embrace their humanity, learn or lean into vulnerability, and then commit to growth. And I think that's very well said.
I had a coaching session. When was it? Last week. Last week I had a coaching session with a CEO of a company, and great conversation all the way till he made a statement that Singh, I think I know everything I need to know about me.
Yeah.
He said, Singh, I think I know everything I need to know about me.
Okay.
And I just smiled. I said, yeah, that's why you're not able to get the company to the growth trajectory you wanted to.
Yeah. 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 That's really interesting. Well, Sing, in anticipation of what our discussion was going to be about today and our interaction, what haven't I asked you that you want to be sure and get into the program?
Uh, the biggest thing is for making sure people really take care of isolation. That is becoming one of the biggest disaster, I would say. I'm actually working on my next book that is going to try to bring the compass circle and ascendancy together
Yeah.
to show how people can start identifying isolation. And for whoever is listening, please, 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 please do not feel that your pain is your own pain. I can promise you there is somebody else who had walked that path. All you need is the vulnerability to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. And at this point in the interview, I always ask my guests the same common question. And that question is, in relation to leadership, what is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
Wow. Um, Lead the ship. It's leadership, right? Lead the ship.
Yeah.
So whether you are alone, if you are the last person decide, if you are even if you are the person deciding who gets the last slice of pizza at home, or you are individually living your own life, lead the ship.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, Singh, this has been a real pleasure. It's your stuff is right on. It's very well put together. The books are great, And it sounds like you're doing great things in the world. So I appreciate your time today, and look forward to hearing about your next book and more things in the future. So I appreciate all you shared with us today, and yeah, it's been real good.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm just trying to get the word out.
Okay. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day, and hopefully we'll meet down the road one of these days.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orangetheword.coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.